In this lesson, we're going to look at removing blemishes. We're going to look at the first way to remove blemishes because there's a number of different ways. And you're probably wondering, why do I have to know different ways to remove blemishes? Well, partially because not every face is the same and not every situation is the same. So it's good to have a couple of different ways in your bag of tricks to be able to get rid of blemishes. Also, I named this class kind of removing blemishes and softening skin. It's not really a softening skin so much as when you've removed all the blemishes, if you do it right, the skin looks soft, right? So why do we soften skin? We soften skin to kind of hide wrinkles and hide, different things. Well, if you've gotten rid of all the little blemishes and things, you've done a nice job of removing that stuff, the skin's smooth. There are no bumps and bruises and things like that. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch. If you remove the blemishes and other little anomalies right, then you're set. So let's go ahead and start in this image. We're going to start with my main tool for removing blemishes is, of course, the healing brush tool. And you learned in the first segment, the first part of this retouching class, if you option click in a nearby area and just move your cursor over the blemish and click. The key is we're not going to really paint with this. We're going to try to paint as little as possible. We're going to try to click. We're also going to try, one of the big keys to removing blemishes is to not use too big a brush. You want to use a brush that is just slightly larger than the blemish you're about to retouch. So that's why I've got this brush that's a little bit bigger than these blemishes. I just click and retouch them. You'll notice that where I sampled from, and that was I option clicked on Mac or alt click on PC, pretty much stays the same as I move around to different areas and just kind of smooth out these areas and get rid of these skins. And if you're doing like senior portraits, and by that I mean like high school seniors, not senior citizens, you're going to wind up with this kind of stuff quite a bit. And so let's go ahead and just get it. Unfortunately, this is one of those things that there's not a really great shortcut for. I mean, there are just blur the whole face so you can't see anything techniques, but we kind of want to stay away from those. We are going to look at some other more advanced skin softening techniques in just a few minutes, but for now, we're just going to worry about smoothing the skin by getting rid of these. You can see I had to drag a little bit there for a couple of areas that are just need a little bit more work there. I can either change the size of the brush, like for this one, I could change the size of the brush and click and we'll see how that works. Not too bad, but now I need to go in here and get that little area there. So that wasn't too bad at all. Let's go here. Now, this might look like a blemish, but actually it is an earring. I'm pretty sure that she would want the earring to stay, or she would have taken it out before the shoot and asked me to retouch it. So, or retouch the hole where it would have been, right? So we're going to go around here and it's going to take a few minutes. There is no quick way. And I go through and remove any little bump, any little discoloration, all these little bumps here, because I want to use this as a skin smoothing technique as well. If you're just worried about just getting rid of the blemishes, well, then you don't have to worry as much of all these little things. But since I'm trying to smooth the skin at the same time, I am going to worry about every little thing. So it is a time-consuming process. There is no quick trick. This is another one of those things where it's photo retouching and it takes time. And unfortunately, since you're into this with me, you're going to have to kind of sit while I finish this off. So let's take a look here. How are we doing? We'll get an area that's close down here, get rid of some of this stuff. You get the idea. Over here's a couple little things. Alright, there's this little area up here. Now, we're going to run into perhaps a danger zone because there's an edge, right? We can try and see if it looks bad. In this case, it looks okay. It doesn't look perfect. Where our big danger zone is going to be up here. I really can't go in here and just get rid of that little spot right there because it creates a break in the wrinkle. Now we have to decide if we want the wrinkle at all. Now, this is a high school senior, so I think you'd probably want to really back off those wrinkles altogether. I would probably get rid of them just altogether. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll just take a break from the blemish removal and get rid of this because there's a blemish right in the middle. If I wanted to keep this, here's how I would get rid of it first. I will show you that. Let's reset our tool. I would make it very small, and you're going to have to basically, let's zoom in a little closer. You're going to have to move this part of the line, clone this part of the line right over it. So you option click here on PC, alt click. Move your cursor over that line and just click once. And ooh, badly done. Let's try that again. Let's go to a little smaller brush. Option click right here, move over it. That's better. And there we go. Gone. In a straight line. The key is the straight line. Here's another little spot. Option click and straight line. Alright, so you can see there's some areas up here. I would switch back to the rubber stamp tool for this. Alright, so now, I mentioned we were going to get rid of this. Let's go ahead and get rid of it now. The way I would get rid of it probably just really quickly is to grab the, there it is, the patch tool. Circle around this area, drag inside it, go to a clean area, and release. And it patches it up. Now, there's more to it than that. And for now, I mean, you might want it completely gone like that with, you know, a situation like this when you're dealing with a high school senior who doesn't want any lines whatsoever. It's also very popular in fashion photography. It's very, very rare to see anyone with lines under their eyes in fashion photography. So, but later in this series, you're going to see the right way to remove wrinkles, you know, for most people. So that's just a quickie I'll just show you here just because we kind of ran into it. Now we're switching back to the healing brush. Go back and keep clicking over these areas. What we're doing by just doing these tiny little edits is we're maintaining most of the texture in her skin. We're not just glossing over it. We're not just covering it up. We're kind of moving texture from one area and just using that same texture. So there's still a lot of texture in her skin. Even this whole area where I worked on over here, there's still a lot of texture left. And that's really the key, is maintaining texture. Because if you lose a lot of texture, they start to get that porcelain, really fakey look. And I'll show you how to get the porcelain fakey look, by the way. If you go, oh, I was kind of hoping to learn that, well, you'll see how. But it's not something I'd super recommend. That look is falling more out of favor every single day. So, because it was the look to have for a little while now. People are starting to go, yeah, but there's no skin texture, so there's better ways, right? And you'll learn them all here in just a little while. So let's kind of go through here. All right, we've kind of done pretty good there. All right. So now we're going to stay busy here for a minute up top. I know you're thinking, well, let's just move on to something else, but no, we can't. You got to finish it. What would her parents think? Okay, think of that. Okay, because they're probably the client to some extent. They're not the client; they're just the ones paying. Okay, here we go. Let's get rid of some of this. And again, I'm not painting as much as I am just clicking. Occasionally, you'll have to see me do a little stroke for a larger area, and really, that's me being lazy, because really, I should just vary the size of my brush. Now, when I'm using a Wacom tablet, I use the pen to just press harder and increase the size of my brush by using pressure. So when I'm not using a tablet, then I'm like, oh man, I have to reach all the way over there and move the bracket key to make my brush larger. And it's true. It's Confessions of a Retoucher. Get rid of that extra hair there. All right. I got that little area up there, and there's some just some unevenness up here in the skin tone, just in these areas, and it's just honestly easier just to kind of healing brush it away. There we go. And there's some bumps up here. I'm not going to finish this whole thing off because you pretty much get the idea. But I do want to show you a before and after. All right, so I'm going to go to the history brush, the history palette. The history palette keeps track of the last 20 things that you've done, but it also shows you the original. So I'll be able to just really quickly switch back and forth. Let me just collapse this palette a little bit. Between the, I need to collapse it a little bit. That's as much as I'm going to collapse, I guess. Here's the original. Take a look at the screen. There's where we started. And just by using the healing brush, here's where we are. Okay, so from here and removing the blemishes, we're here. Now, take a look at her skin and decide, would you add more smoothing on top of that? Well, I mean, there is some blotchiness in her skin. As you can see, parts of it change color and stuff, and that's very, very common. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her skin. It's just that blotchiness definitely happens where, you know, there's uneven areas as you move around her face. So if I was going to add skin softening, that's why I would do it. Really, in most cases, I think I'd probably leave most of what you see here. I might add a tiny little bit of skin softening using a technique you'll see me use later. but really, I mean, you've removed every anomaly from her face. Now it's just about tone. And you can do some dodging and burning to do that, and I'll show you how to sculpt the face a little using dodging and burning. But that's basically how I would handle most, I would probably say 95% of the blemish removal. But in the next lesson, I'm going to show you an alternate method for removing blemishes.